This video is all about the 5 lessons that I learned in 2025 so that you don't have to. Hello, hello. I hope that you are having a great day or evening wherever you are in the world when you're watching this video. If you are come across this video and you have no idea who I am, my name's Krishara. I am the founder of Reverb Root. It is a platform that supports Black, Indigenous women and femmes of color globally to honor their dreams, take bold action, and share their stories in order to shape and impact themselves, their communities, in the world. On this channel, I share videos from the archive, from past interviews and conversations that I've had with incredible women around the world. And I also share the ins and outs of building a emerging global brand. This video is all about the 5 lessons that I learned in 2025 so that you don't have to. I am someone who is not shy about sharing uh, my own journey, the behind the scenes of Reverb Root. I think that doing so gives other people kind of the permission, not that anyone needs permission, but it helps encourage and give permission to people to take action on their dreams and to build and to not feel ashamed about building in public. So, yeah, let's get started. Okay, so earlier this week, my husband and I were talking over breakfast, and he mentioned this interesting little saying, which was, smart is learning from your own mistakes, wisdom is learning from the mistakes of others. And I pride myself on being someone who sees other people make mistakes, makes note of it, and says, okay, I'm gonna do differently, move accordingly. I'm learning from that. At the same time, that does not change the fact that I still make my own mistakes. And so this video is basically a way to impart some wisdom on folks and also documentation for myself that I can look back on and remember the ways that I made mistakes, faced obstacles, and instead of viewing them as losses, viewing them as opportunities and stepping stones. Number one, know when to pivot. I am someone who very much likes control. I will map out goals and plans and strategies and all the nooks and crannies and little details. And last year, I realized that while that is good to an extent, the downside is if you are not willing to see and evaluate when something is not working, when even a piece of what you planned is not working or the whole thing is not working, if you are not someone who can look and evaluate and see it, but then also be brave enough and flexible enough to pivot when you do see it, that is just an hindrance for yourself. It's not going to help you grow. In fact, it's probably going to just do the opposite. It's going to be stagnating you. You're going to feel burned out and resentful. I say this as someone who definitely did last year. I feel like a lot of last year was really good. I knew that last year was going to be like a real foundational year of setting the systems and foundations in place to be able to grow and really evolve Reverb and Root. The issue came when I saw aspects were not working and decided to be an ostrich, which means I put my head in the sand. I, because I wasn't sure what to do, what the next step was, I just stayed still and kind of avoided the work that I knew I needed to do. And yeah, that kind of slowed me down in my progress. And that's something I'm changing this year. I am choosing to know when to pivot. I'm choosing to be flexible, to be aware and very clear and decisive about what the condition is of the decisions that I've made, of the results of the decisions that I've made, or the circumstances, and being willing to pivot. Something that I've said a lot of times to myself, but I didn't necessarily fully implemented last year was action in any direction is better than no action at all. That's what I have found. I have found that if you are in a freeze state, you're not moving in any way. There's no catalyst that's happening. As a result of you just staying still. At least if you take an action and say it's in the wrong direction, you will get very clear feedback that, okay, this is not the right direction. It's not the way I want to go. And it'll inevitably give you a way, like a sign or a signal or a path of which direction to go. But if you're just staying still, if you know that there's a problem and you're pretending like the problem isn't there and you're sinking into denial, you're just going to stay stagnant. So know when to pivot. Number two, do not bypass your feelings and your experiences. If you are unwilling to wade through the depths of your feelings and your experiences now, do not make the mistake of thinking that not doing so, of avoiding it, of sweeping it under a rug is just gonna stay there. Generally, I found last year that I say I found it last year, but I've seen this happen lots of times, even like beyond last year. Um, but if you are not willing to wade through your own feelings and your experiences now, they will pop up inevitably, and it's better to make a choice of dealing with it while you have the choice, as opposed to not dealing with it and then the ramifications of having not dealt with it popping up during very inopportune times. Um, Last year, I tried and failed and dealt with to deal with, you know, losses and grief and my own disappointments and feelings of failure and insecurities by basically pushing through and moving on and just powering through. Um, but what I got instead was a lot of inner resentment, a lot of burnout, this kind of compounding feeling of insecurity and feeling of inadequacy. And I highly do not recommend that. I think that looking back, if I would have taken the time to slow down and to um, deal with the feelings and the experiences, face them, um, and I guess what's the phrase? Like sacrifice by way of slowing down and stopping, as opposed to this kind of feeling that if I just keep going, I can just move on and power through. I think that I would have set myself up for a lot less frustration and a lot less friction. And so it wasn't until towards, say, the end of the year and into this year that I've taken time to deal with the feelings and the experiences. And it's been very helpful, but I wish that I would have dealt with those feelings and those experiences um, in real time as I was feeling them. Number three, be willing to turn your back to the audience. Um, you don't have to do it for forever, but it's important that you turn your back to the audience long enough to hear yourself and your inner creativity. And when I say turning your back to the audience, I mean taking time to ignore what you feel that people want you to create, what you think that your audience, your customers, or whatever, or whoever are wanting or expecting from you, and take a bit of time to stop, to isolate yourself, to yourself and your team, if you have a team, but take some time away and just figure out what it is that you want, what brings you joy, what aspect of your work or your life brings you joy, and build from there before you like obsessively um, try to focus on what other people want and what other people will like or approve of. I think that it's important to strike a balance. Obviously, if you are someone who owns a company or who is an artist who sells your work, there's a balance that you have to strike between creating something that you really, really love and are happy with and that sits right with you, as well as something that your audience will love and appreciate and want to buy or engage with. There's a balance that's to strike there. And I think it definitely takes time for um, all of us to figure out what exactly that balance is. It's not going to look the same for everyone. But what I do know is that if you are so utterly and incredibly debilitatingly obsessed with other people liking or approving your work before you actually do, you're basically going to be fighting an uphill battle for perpetuity, for peace and satisfaction. You have to be okay with what you put out because to be able to pull something from your mind and to put it out into reality, to create something that lives in reality, that engages with the physical world, that other people engage with, I think that that is something that is so sacred. And that is something that I really feel like is a sacred connection between ourselves and whatever the higher power is out in the world that connects all of us and humanity. And so I just think it's so important to be willing to turn your back to the audience. Make sure that you're okay with what you're creating, what you're putting out into the world. Be really passionate about that and make sure that you approve of it before you have huge obsessive concerns about if anyone else does. Four, this is an important one. This is one it's taken me a minute to come to terms with. If you find that you are never really satisfied with what you produce, with your work, with your art, that is completely, totally normal. And I wish that I would have known this back when I was in like art school, that that feeling of dissatisfaction with what you're creating, yes, that is like a gap between your skill set versus what the place that you want to be. Um, but I also think that that is also because what you've envisioned in your mind's eye is quite literally perfection. It is perfection in the sense that it is not engaged with the physical world. Um, and the real work and challenge is bringing ideas from our mind to reality that engages with the physical world, whether that be through space, through creating something physical with people, materials, etc. So, you know, I struggled for years and felt insecurity about the fact that I would have a piece in mind um, that I wanted to write or something that I wanted to design. And I'd see it clearly in my mind. And then when I create it, it doesn't feel the same. It wouldn't feel the same. It wouldn't look exactly how I imagined it would look. Um, all of those things. And I think that's literally because it is an idea that is perfection in your mind that I had not engaged in the physical world. And that is a key aspect of creativity that I don't think people talk about enough. About part of the beauty of creativity and making things is that kind of alchemy between the idea and then putting it out into the world. So, if you don't feel very fully satisfied with what you work on or what you're creating, um, yes, it could be a skill set gap, but also know that it could also just be the fact that what you've imagined in your mind is perfect and it hasn't engaged with the physical world yet. And that part of that space is also sacred and also perfectly normal. Yeah. And lastly, number five, don't take things so seriously that you siphon the fun out of it all. Um, Last year was the first year that I worked for myself, and as someone who has for 10 plus years worked for other people and had bosses and things like people like that, some really incredible, some very much the opposite of incredible. Yeah. Um, I really struggled with having time for myself, being the one to manage my time. Yes, that was a struggle, but I think that I'm so used to working in environments where everything is so serious and goals and productivity and all of like what you produce is so important and you have to have metrics and all of this stuff, or wins and measuring wins and losses with client business development, all of that stuff. Um, I think that I took that and I translated it into my business. I felt like I immediately had to hit the ground running. Um, I had a very clear plan and still do for what Reverb and Root will be and will continue to grow into. But the mistake that I made was not carrying the initial excitement and fun that I had while creating like the goals and like the branding and the brand strategy and all of that. Um, Somewhere along the way, I think I just kind of, in my effort to control outcomes and elements and all of that, and get the word out and everything, I think I just kind of sucked the fun out of it. In a way that like I didn't consciously say, okay, I'm gonna build this thing and then I'm just gonna take out all of the fun out of it and not enjoy it to the fullest. There were definitely still elements that I thought were fun, but I think in my pursuit of building it, I think there was a part of me that felt like I had to build it in this very specific way to prove something to myself or to prove something to other people, or really mainly it was to prove that I had made the right decision by leaving a job and security. And so I felt like, okay, I've left this security of working for people for 10 plus years. So I have to create that security by immediately unplannedly like forcing this thing to work at all costs. And yeah, I don't think that I had nearly as much fun as I could have last year, with the excitement of building a company. I did really well, as far as what I built, but what I've learned is that you don't have to control all elements. It's actually, you can't. It's impossible. Like you literally can't. You're not a fortune teller. You can't account for all variables seen and unforeseen. And so the best thing you can do is be really thankful to have something in this world that lights you up and that can impact other people and be real, like a real um a real positive influence on the world. Um, I'm thankful for that. I have that. I know that at least in the US, I think statistically like 80% of people hate their jobs. And I was one of those definitely at different points in my career. And I'm very thankful that I am not there anymore in my career. So yeah, when you find something that lights you up, whether it's building a brand or working on a hobby or a project or spending time with loved ones and friends, cherish it and honor it and enjoy it because life really is so short. I know people say that all the time, but I feel like as I get older, and I look up and realize, like, whoa, like, for example, COVID, like, I can't believe that COVID started 6 years ago. I have no idea where the time went. I know that I lived throughout that time and I have very clear memories and I have photos of the things that I did. but the time itself, those years went by so fast. And because things like that happen, of time going by so fast, it is like even more imperative that we really cherish and hold tightly to the things that bring us joy and that we love, because it won't always be here. So, yeah, those are the five things. Know when to pivot. Um, don't bypass your feelings and your experiences. Be willing to turn your back to the audience. Know that if you're not satisfied with the work that you're producing, yes, it could be a skills gap, but it's also likely too that what you've imagined in your mind's eye is perfection that has not engaged with the physical world. And don't take things so seriously that you siphon the fun out of it all. Um, Life is meant to be enjoyed. It is meant to be engaged with deeply. And um, I think that it's a real gift to be here. It's not perfect all the time. I had a lot of great things that happened last year, but I had a lot of shitty things that happened last year. Some that I've shared, some that I wish so much that I could forget about that I won't share it. Um, but through and through, to be here on this earth during this specific moment in history, this moment of time, this period of time, I don't think it's a coincidence for any of us to be here. And I think that it's a real gift. Yeah. So those are the five lessons I learned last year so that you don't have to. Um, if you were interested in more videos like this, subscribe. I also have a bi-weekly email that I send out called Reclamation Notes every second and fourth Monday. Subscribe to that. I will have that down in the description. And yeah, see you around.